Welcome everyone. In the next session of the transportation policy and strategic planning. In this session, we will try to understand that how we can plan the mobility for the different cities. So the purpose of this session is today to understand the mobility planning while understanding different case studies which is done. So in transportation policy and strategic planning, it is very much important that we should understand mobility and or what is the difference between transportation and mobility. Okay, so when we try to understand transportation, so transportation is the act where we are trying to move goods and people. Okay, while the mobility is actually the ability, okay, ability or the movement, okay, or we can call that capability of movement as well, which describe the ability of a person to moved or be moved. So every city in this world is quite unique. Each city has its own identity, its own characteristic, its own landscape, civic center, inhabitants, certain behavioral patterns. So it is very much important that to plan according to the city requirement and demand. For example, if I would like to explain that part in terms of a Pakistan, so in Pakistan, Karachi is one of the mega city in the world, in I think second or third mega city. So the Karachi Transport and Policy Planner will deal with different elements or aspect. For example, due to its huge urbanization, they will try to deal with the increasing urbanization, increasingly frequent traffic congestion, and so on. But the planner in Lahore, they will deal with the rising environmental situation, environmental pollution. Okay, and the planner in Islamabad, they will try to deal with the connectivity, that how they can connect the each corner of Rawalpindi and Islamabad in a certain way where we have the effective connectivity and mobility. While the planner in Peshawar, they will try to deal that how the local public transportation or which we so-called call the new implemented bus rapid transit system is more less frequent and reliable as compared to the local existing different uh, travel modes pattern. So what I'm trying to explain that each and every city have its unique characteristic features, issues to deal with that. So today we will try to understand that how cities plan future mobility while having or understanding different mega cities around the world. So first of all, what we need to consider. So like numerous different cities today are faced with challenges which is associated with population, ongoing urbanization. So in parallel to its growth, its industrial development, traffic places are increasing within the system. So the increase in car transport not only make demand uh, ever greater as compared to the public transportation, and we need to build more and more roads each and every year. While building more and more roads, it will increase the congestion issues. It will have the issue with the pollution, and of course, the travel time will also increase. So today, as a planner, we need to understand that what kind of values or indicator, okay, or indicator we need to consider while planning for any city, or go, or for example, formulate any strategic planning for 5 or 10 or 15 years. So first of all, you need to understand that we have four kind of a constraint or four kind of a domains where we need to deal with. The first one is the active, which are directly uh, kind of a proportional with the urban mobility. Second one is variable, or which we call the critical variables. Third one is the reactive variable, while the fourth one is the variables which we need to consider, but its effect is in the very last. So the issues such as population density, of course, if your population is increasing, we need to plan accordingly. So if the traffic congestion is increasing, we need to resolve that. So there is two type of to resolve the congestion issues, either through integrated max transport mobility, or which we also call the sustainable transportation planning, or the conventional system. So the conventional system means if we have the two lanes, so if the congestion is increasing, the very simple option is just build the third lane. While the sustainable integrated transportation means that we need to adopt the protocols such as called avoid, shift, and improve. So those strategies basically trying to prioritize the public transportation. So how the individual can avoid its private vehicles, its personal vehicle, and you can shift his travel mobility option from its personal to the public transportation. So when we shift that his priority, so the question is what that specific user or traveler demand us to improve it within the system. So this is called the sustainable way how we can deal with that. Second part is we have the critical variables which change according to the area and the population. So it's a very huge list, starting with local public transportation infrastructure. If it's already developed, then we need to develop a bit less. But if it's not developed, so then maybe we need to start from the very ground zero. And then second is what kind of ITS system is there, or which we call the ICT system, how that specific traffic responses are collected at the major server, and what is the municipal administration, how they are dealing, or what kind of policies do they have, what is their power constraint, what is the car ownership, what is the innovative mobility option. Innovative mobility simple means that do the people use a public transportation, do they use the pedestrian ways, do they use scatter bladder, or do they use any type of a non-motorized cycling transportation. So do they have any option, because it's very much important whenever we are trying to understand the multimodal services or the modal share. We will try to explain in the later slides as well. So if your public transportation is, for example, 30%, so of course that specific NMT, pedestrian tracks, scatter bladder, it should also be between 7 to 10%. If your city did not provide such type of a system, such type of a mobility option, then we might have issues as well. Because as best example is, for example, Moscow city in Russia. So they have a very less ride share. The same example is in Islamabad as well, and in the capital of Pakistan. So such type of a option, if the planner ignore those important mobility option, then we might have issues. Okay, and then we have the intermodality, how your different modes, tram, train, rail, BRT, local buses, express buses are excuse me, or connected together. What is its quality? Do can the people rely on that? What is its share, and how the urban and rural dynamics occur? Okay, and what is the share of the cycling and walking? And then we have the reactive variable, such as like legislative background means if we want to increase mobility, we need space. So we cannot ignore the relation between space and mobility. Okay, so it's kind of a directly interconnected with each other, because mobility option can only be achieved if we have the available space. If we don't have a space, and then we need to have a look that which legislative body hold the power of that specific land. Either it's a municipal land, it's a regional land, it's a city land, or do we need approval from the federal state authorities? What kind of a social justice or social inclusion we do have? For example, social justice means that, for example, we need to consider the planned development within the city, or the equal distribution of the development. It should not be like that. For example, if this is your city center, if that specific portion is completely developed and all those outskirts are kind of ignored, so this is not the social justice. And then we need to consider the land prices as well, because land prices affect very much. Because if we ignore, if we want to build something, underground pass, tunnels or something in the city center, so its price will be quite expensive. So our planning should be in the way that we need always need to focus the cost X, okay? And we need to complete that specific project within the cost X. And then we have the different type of a variables, such as population structure, and then economy, and then the travel times, and then of course the environmental impact, and then the very important one, the total budget. Can the municipality have that specific power who can supervise its own project? If so, then we are good to go. Otherwise, we need to look for the donor as well. This is the typical example. In that session, I will try to explain 3 or 4 or like 5 cities, which is very much important in what they are doing. This is the typical example of the Ahmedabad city located in India. So where they have the total population of a 5.6 million inhabitants. The city currently has 5.6 million, and the registered annual growth is around about 2.4% by the 2030, and its total built area is about 475, and the population total density per kilometer is about 12,000 people, and its GDP per capita is about $12,000, and the unemployed data was still not provided. And we have the data of the private cars, the data of the private cycles, the fatal accident as well, and the cost of the diesel as well as the public transportation. Why I'm going to share those characteristics is the planner. Those are the elements what we discussed in the previous slide. Those should be part of your vision and mission, and that should be part of your action, that how you can start your action from your individual city. Okay. So if we compare its modal share, so the Ahmedabad have the total percentage of the transportation which is covered through personal car or through personal motor. It's about 42%. Through public transport, it's about 16%. Through cycling, it's 14%. Walking 22%, and other 6%. So if we look, if you just count 14 plus 22 plus 6%, so it's about 4 to 12 and 214. 42% is only covered through public transport, through non-motorized transportation, NMT, which is completely environmental pollution free, and plus 16% is about 58%. So 58% is completely travel with the almost with the sustainable modes or ways of the public transportation. So which is again a very good ride, a kind of a very good percentage. So if you look here, we have the regional trains about 377 kilometer, The long distance buses operated in 2000 kilometer, BRT operated in 85, while city buses operated almost in the 600 kilometer, which is again a very good percentage of the modal share. Again, we will try to understand Beirut, BN. As you can see here, Beirut have the one of the oldest human settlement around the world, and it's the capital of Lebanon. The city itself has a population for about 45,000, 4,500,000, and which has almost 2 million inhabitants, more than the population of its rest of the country. So with an area of almost 22 square kilometer, and the city of Beirut has kind of a exceedingly high population density as compared to rest of the city of Lebanon. If we compare its motorized transport, it's about 73% covered through personal cars, 7% through public transportation, and we don't have any data of the cycling and walking as well. So you can imagine that 73% of all those trips covered through public or the private car, and 7% actually covered through public transportation. Again, which is very least, and you can imagine that Beirut have the one of the kind of a world worst public transportation system and design. So the purpose of those studies is just to give you brief idea what are the important indicators and elements which actually matter while planning for any individual cities. The next one is Bogota, which is located in Colombia. Bogota is actually the capital of Colombia as well, with almost 7.9 million inhabitants, with an area of a 1776 kilometers square, and the residence to 1 square kilometer is about 1800. Okay, here 1800 residents to 1 square kilometer. Okay. Uh, Today, the city is responsible for about a quarter of the national gross domestic product. Okay, in recent decades, then the new residents, whenever they try to move from the rural area, they were also contributed in the growth capital. Okay, but today many cities with low income and with heavily populated districts, so that is the that system installed in Bogota. But in 1990 they installed the BRT system, and they were trying to improve its public transportation. And now you can imagine that they have reduced the individual motor transportation from almost 75% to 17% in the year. So this was the statistic in 1990, and now this is the statistic in 2021 and 22. So you can imagine that where they are now. And their public transportation at that time was about 5%, and now they reached to almost 44%. And you can imagine with the integrated max land use design, the city of Bogota have reached to its perfection level. So now that specific city have more than 661 lines, BRT operating in 87 kilometer, while the bike lanes are constructed for about 344 kilometer. So this is again, if you people remember in our primary school mathematics, we had a formula where we were trying to equal the left hand side with the right hand side. So the more you are investing in the any type of infrastructure, as a result you will get it's the same result. So here you can imagine that each in every city, the Bogota, Colombia have built amazing bike lanes and the pedestrian tracks, and only in their transport mode share, about 33% people are only using walking and cycling as their regular mode of the travel. This should be the typical example that how these cities should be built. So the next one is about Istanbul, Turkey. Istanbul with the 13.3 million population is Istanbul is the cultural and economic center of Turkey. It's one of the metropolis metropoles which is extended for about 45 kilometer from the side of the north and for about 175 kilometer from east to west. So it's a very huge city. The city occupies a strategically important position because it's between Balkans and near to the east and also near to the kind of a Europe as well. So every day for about 1.1 million passenger travel between Europe and Asia through Istanbul. So you can imagine that how much massive infrastructure they actually need to build. But if we try to understand the public transportation mode share, so the total of transport or the ride cover through their public transport is about 16%. Public transport effectivity is about 35%, and walking is about 49%. So means 35 plus 49%, which is equal to almost 84% travels or the journey is done through the built infrastructure or through sustainability. So the car ownership is still relatively low as compared to the rest of the case study which we did. And of course, Beirut was one of the worst one, and Ahmedabad was again doing terrific in terms of public transportation. But of course, it's somehow comparable with the Bogota, Colombia. Next one is Shanghai. So Shanghai with a population of 23 million, again one of the big metropolis metropole city. For about 4 million people live on the urban area, and the how much that specific city have a bit lower population between 2000 and 2010, but again it rose by 40%, and it really contributing uh, economically to the growth of China, although Shanghai has also invested very much massively in public transportation. They have invested for about 2 to 3 times as much its road infrastructure or the last year. As you can imagine, the road built area is about 17,000 kilometer. Subway length is about 420 kilometer. Magnetic levitation rail is about 31 kilometer. Tram have kind only for the civic purpose. They have for about 10%. City buses they have almost 1,200 lines, and they have also ferries as well. Okay, so you can see here the individual motorized transportation overall is very less in China, so it's contributing for about 20%. So you can imagine 25 plus 29 plus 26%, which is somehow equal to 80% is contributing to through public transportation. So this is the typical example of the sustainable cities. What we actually need to understand or what we learn from that. So this case study was actually was for the purpose that how those cities should be built. So they just compare those 10 to 12 different cities starting from Shanghai. So the first thing we need to understand population, and then population growth, and then population density, because those three relations are very much together. If we have a vision of 2050, so what kind of parameters we need to understand? So we need to see the pattern, the population growth, population density in the year 2023-24, and then we need to plan accordingly that what will be its effect. In the year 2030 we will be almost ready, the infrastructure will be almost built, and then it can carry that future demand through our transportation policy and strategic planning. What kind of car ownership we do have, and what kind of urban rail network we do have, because it's very much important. We need to compare. So that doesn't mean that the development pattern or the identity of any city, that how many people, or if you want to see that which city is how much developed, so do not look at how many cars do they have, but look to, or just try to understand its public transportation system and see that if the elite and middle class is moving in the local available public transportation, so that means that that city is contributing well enough. So its best example is Munich. Okay. And then, of course, we also need to understand the modal split as well. If you can see here, Los Angeles have the one of the worst. So they have the 78% of the motorized public, motorized individual transportation, and only 11% they have the public transport. Similarly, Melbourne have 75% trips, and Beirut have as well. And the same example which we study of Istanbul, Bogota, and Shanghai. So they have the population from 16 to 20%, which do their ride through motorized transport. But the rest of for about 80% in those three cities is actually done through either through public transportation or cycling or walking. So what are the factors which influence to any individual, okay, to have a car or to go with the public transportation or through any other public transportation? So that red one is basically the strong influence, that a bit light one is a bit moderate one, and that specific one is weak influence, and then red one is no influence system. Okay. So municipal budget have more strong influence, because if they will invest more in the public transportation, more people will actually select the public transportation as their mode. And similarly, governance and regulation is also a very important factor which influence on the transportation planning and the economic development goals, in the population development, and so on. Okay. So that means that from municipal budget till public health, we cannot ignore those 6 to 7 important factors, which are completely and extensively influencing on the transportation planning. And then now we are trying to understand that what are the factors which influence on the mobility behavior. So we will see that if your any public transportation is uh, kind of a reliable, okay, because reliability is one of the most important factor and element in the transportation planning. So if your service is reliable, so if any individual can reach from origin to destination within its desired time, so that specific factor will influence on your mobility. So it's completely, because for most of the people, travel time is considered one of the most factor uh, on the basis of which they actually decided that which factor should be used. Okay. And then service quality. What type of facilities or quality do they have? Do they have availability, accessibility? What about congestion? And what about its fare? Okay, how much, for example, if someone would like to travel for about 10 kilometer and its car charges is, for example, or cost is about 10 US dollar. So if he is using that public transport, can he reach in $1 to $2? If so, then of course he will use it. What about safety? If your system is safe and secure, of course they will use it. What kind of road infrastructure do they have? Fuel prices is recently affecting after the Russia and Ukraine war, because the fuel prices around the world is kind of a magnanimously increases, which actually push a lot of average salary people not to use their own car, but either to use the option of a ride share or either to use the public transportation. So those are very much important factor which actually influencing the mobility behavior option. And then we need to understand at the end of the day, what is your highest priority? If you want to improve public transportation, of course, this is my highest priority among all. If you want to extend, this is of course my highest priority. If you want to improve mobility option, of course, this is my highest priority. I also want to improve transport organization, my highest priority, congestion priority. I would also like to contribute or run the sustainable transport options, of course. So at the end of a day, we need to see as a planner that what is our highest priority. You can see here highest priority, high priority, medium priority, low priority, lowest priority, and then maybe so till here. So we need to define ourselves in terms of a priority, and we always build that specific project, which is of course highest priority. And then we have the future strategies as well, that where we need to invest or where we want to invest, because local public transportation modes already implemented and are either planned or either under the consideration. So where we want to focus in our future strategies, what we want to improve. Do we want to improve city buses? Do we want to improve commuter trains? Do we want to invest in subways? Do we want to invest in BRT or tram or light rail? So as a planner, you always need to look from the top, and then you need to focus that where and when you want to improve. Okay, so this is the purpose of this case study. And now I hope that each and every listener will be able to plan the vision 2030 for their own cities. So this is the task for all the listener, that they should come up with a comprehensive plan, that how we can plan for 2030 in terms that what kind of a existing mobility option do we have, what type of a population growth density we do have, what type of a different mode ride share we do have exist in our cities. And again, in the last, your task should be, as a plan, you as a planner, you have to explain that where you want to focus. Thank you very much for listening, and you can get back in the comment section if anyone have any question. Thank you very much.